we're going to get started. Thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. This is the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone number 1 meeting, regular meeting, October 15th, 2024. It's 3:35 p.m. We're in City Hall chambers, calling this meeting to order. Everyone, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Ayala or Ms. Martinez, can you help us with roll call?
Yes, Mr. Justin Heather,
Here.
Mr. Joseph Neb is absent, Mr. Francisco Mata,
Present.
Vanessa Guerra,
Present.
Jose Ceballos,
Here.
Wilfredo Martinez. He has asked to be excused. And then Mr. Juan Caballero.
Present.
You do have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Motion to excuse Mr. Martinez and Mr. Neb.
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Heather. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None. Motion passes. On to the next item. Item 4 is citizens' minutes. Citizens are required to fill out a witness card no later than 3:45 p.m. Those can be found here on location. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of the issue. Speakers may not pass their minutes to any other speaker. Comments should be relevant to city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Anybody here to make public comment? Not seeing anyone. We still have a few minutes before that cutoff. We'll move on to minutes. Approval of minutes for September 10th, 2024. Those are in your packet. Thank you, Ms. Ayala, for correcting the date on the agenda. Appreciate that.
Yes, of course.
Motion to approve minutes.
Then moved by Mr. Mata to approve minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Guerra. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None. Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, so we have our standing presentation items as item 6, Zaragoza Street Public Improvements. I think it'll be a combination of Edward Ochoa and I kind of filling you in as to the latest. We just happened to have our kind of a catch-up meeting with the contractor a few minutes ago and learned, that we've had a very few surprises, thankfully. There are a couple that we'll talk about. For the most part, I think things have gone very well. When you're kind of uprooting things in an old area, you expect to have some surprises, but nothing major has come up. I think the one thing, getting ahead on this a little bit, is that the depth of concrete that's being pulled out is a little thicker than was anticipated. So instead of being 8 inches, we're finding that some sections are as much as a foot or 12 inches. So that's not terrible. But anyway, Edward, I'll kick it off to you, and I have a slideshow in the pen drive. If you don't mind helping us navigate through it for pictures whenever you think that's the right time.
No, sir. Edward Ochoa with the KCI for the record, and good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, just I'll kind of do a quick summary update, and then you want to throw in some things I can answer to them. But on the Zaragoza Improvements Project, they're moving along pretty well. They are probably a little more than halfway complete on block number 1. They poured some concrete yesterday. We went out there this afternoon, just before here, and they're already demolishing the next pour, which they have prepared for. They're shooting for maybe Friday or Saturday. And once they get that piece, they probably will have maybe one more piece left on block 1. So they're moving pretty well. We anticipate, this is just kind of visiting with them, but we anticipate probably within the next 2 weeks, maybe towards the end of this month, they might be complete on that particular block. As far as the improvements along the block, one of the things that we were meeting with them about yesterday, we've been going out there. These guys are moving really quickly, which is great. We've been going out there just about every other day just to keep an eye on them and coordinate things and make any small adjustments we need to make. But as they approach the intersection, there's going to be some some coordination because they have a section of concrete that they'll have to pour across the intersection of Zaragoza. And we were talking about that in the field and just trying to figure out how we coordinate that. Might end up needing to be maybe a night pour for maybe half of that, but just doing our very best to not close off the street to traffic. So those are just, again, little details that we're working through on a very regular basis on this project. But all in all, they're moving pretty well and things are looking pretty good. From our last meeting, they were waiting on the bricks. Since then, the bricks have already arrived. Both the bricks for the pavers, the vehicular pavers, which are the ones in the street, and the pedestrian bricks. So if you look at some of the pictures that probably Jose has in his slide, you'll see some of the bricks have already been installed, and they look pretty good in my opinion. So everything's coming along pretty well so far. No big surprises as of now. My concern a little bit in the design phase was, as you get through downtown, you can come across all sorts of utilities that are not at the right depth that they're supposed to be at. And we're very lucky, knock on wood, thus far that they haven't come across any utility issues that have required, any delays or utility relocations. So far so good. I'm happy about that. But other than that, it's been going pretty well.
Edward, we talked a little bit about field adjustments that needed to be made, and acknowledging those to the contractor. Some may have cost associated with it, which were probably minor.
Mm-hmm.
You want to kind of just tell the board what those items are?
Okay. So one of the field adjustments that we had talked about making was on the Iturbide and Santa Ursula side, so kind of away from where we've been mostly working. Over there, we did those improvements kind of in preparation for the It Street monument that's coming soon. And in those improvements, we had a very small section. We added some grass. But
There's a picture on the slideshow if you want to.
You do that? Okay.
It should say TERS Zaragoza Street Improvements.
The PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Or the PDF?
Either one, it's the same.
Okay.
We're not seeing it yet. There you go. It's actually the last pictures, the last two
Okay.
pictures.
Let me go just to stay on topic with that, and then I'll come back to the pictures that he's got there. There we go. So if you see right here in the picture, if you can see my cursor, okay. So right in this picture, we redid everything here. And so we cleaned up the elevation of there was a teardrop, if you recall, there was kind of a teardrop drop-off area. We cleaned that up and cleaned up the elevation difference. And so we added some grass between here, from about the tree to here, and then from here to about the pole. And this grass area, he brought up a comment about there was existing irrigation kind of coming from both ends, and there wasn't any irrigation within that little piece there. So he asked about that, and it was pretty minor, bringing in a couple, I don't know what it was, maybe 40, 50 linear feet of irrigation pipe, just connecting it. So they went ahead and did that and added a few sprinkler heads there just to make sure that grass would survive. So that was one of them that we talked about. So I guess as looking at that, you can kind of see these are the brick pavers that were placed. So we ended up having some brick pavers that were added to this portion of the project also. So when the brick pavers came in, they went ahead and put them. So those are already placed there. Little bit hard to see, but there's a little black dot kind of right here in this picture. That's the conduit. They've already got a conduit sticking up that is connected to, if you see right in here is a pull box sitting on the edge of the grass. And then from the pull box, it goes right over here to, you can see the conduit sticking up here in the concrete pad. That'll be where the electrical frame will go. So all that's already prepped up for the It Street monument. So once the It Street monument comes in, there'll have to be some coordination. Obviously, they're going to take out some of these bricks and set the base for that It Street monument. But once they do that, that conduit's already there, and so that they can go ahead and run the conduit back to the electrical meter. So we went ahead and accounted for that, and all that's prepped up for the other project that I think is on your agenda to talk about. So let me go back to, I'll just start from your PowerPoint, Jose, and then I can.
Yeah, it should be an order from Flores to Salinas.
Okay. So this is what we call block number 2. So this is right in front of the churches in the tack room. I guess in this area there was some areas in here. In our plans, we had denoted a couple of areas where bricks we had noticed had kind of sumped in, and so their job there was to remove the bricks, regrade underneath the pavement, and then lay the bricks back so that they are back kind of at a level surface. One of the issues that they noted was as they took some of these bricks out, the bricks are all different types, they're different thicknesses. So the challenge that they had was it wasn't as simple as just taking the bricks out and then repouring the concrete base level and then setting the brick, because then you have one brick that's 3 inches and another brick that's 4 inches. And so they had a little bit of an issue with that. It was a little more time consuming than they had anticipated. But they went ahead and worked through that and got all that figured out. They adjusted. We discussed that in the field, and they made the adjustments. I given them some direction on that. But what they on a change order on an additional item, a quantity item for this area was they went ahead and took care of the areas we noted on the plans, but they found that there was an area right here in front of the churches that still had a little bit of a sump. And what we believe that was just over the time from when we noted it, when we started our design to now, it seemed like that's where the delivery truck keeps parking and pulling in. And it just looks like maybe over the last time that we looked at it to now, that area had sumped in. So they went ahead and discussed that with us, and we agreed that that would probably just be an area, let's just add and get it taken care of now, so that we didn't have that look. So you'll see here in some of these areas, you'll see the bricks where they've relocated. This is some of the bricks that they changed up, and you can see some of the sand through there. This was I believe it's kind of hard to tell where they reworked, but they reworked some of these bricks because they brought some infrastructure up to this tree that's there.
So one topic that, Edward, if I just want to comment on
Yes.
something. We have these old trees, not all of them are being replaced per plans. I think, Andrea, you mentioned two, right, that are existing that would remain. I really think, I don't know if that's one of them.
So the two trees,
But they're in
Jose,
really poor shape.
it's this tree here is existing. It's been there for a
Yeah.
while, and then it's this other tree way in the back of the screen that's closer to conduit.
That one might be all right, but that one, I think, to make it look nice, we're gonna have, eventually it's gonna be nice and clean and freshly curb painted and stuff. I think we ought to consider as a board dedicating some money to replace that tree. It's way past its life, if you ask me.
Yes.
And it's right where you walk, you kind of go into the redeveloped space. So.
Well, the only issue there is that that's a major overhaul when you pull out the root system. You're gonna have to get an excavator in there and do some real damage to the pavers. Now, let me ask you this: you said that the service truck or a pickup truck, delivery truck is the one that created the.
It looks like it. It looks like that's an area where delivery trucks or service trucks may be stopping.
If that's going to be an ongoing issue, have we the subfloor? What kind of subsurface are we putting?
So I think the sub base that they had, they said when they dug underneath it, it was the bricks and then sand and then some concrete pavement there's pavement underneath it. So they went ahead and re-leveled kind of that pavement area. I just think it was just over time. I mean, a concrete base with the bricks on top is
Should be
a
good.
pretty strong structure. So it just might have been, over time, it got loose. Some of it could even be some of the sand that kind of levels between the concrete and the brick. Yeah, I mean that's hard to kind of get at. One thing, I'm not sure if they did it on this one, but I'll bring it up to them. On the new brick pavers that we have been placing, especially at the intersection, they went ahead and used there's a sealant that they, a sealant that they can use, and that sealant gets in with the sand, and it helps kind of glue up the sand that's going in between the bricks, so it kind of helps really solidify the brick pavers themselves. I'd be a little concerned about adding that to the areas that we fixed, because then that could leave a different brick shade color Unless you did the whole street, right?
Well,
so.
I mean, on that note, that looks like a patchwork. And I'm assuming those are the bricks that were different sizes.
Yeah, a lot of these bricks are different sizes, different color. The bricks that were there were already existing colors, sizes.
No, I mean the color of those bricks that are specifically there. They're redder than the other ones. So those, I'm assuming the ones that were thicker than the other ones.
Yeah, he didn't explain that, I guess, to me. I might be able to ask him to point out.
Color is very close when you're there. It's not really, there's a difference, but
It looks
it's
kind
not
of
really
distinctive
striking.
here in this picture, but
What
it might
does-
have just been that, they removed these bricks, so they're probably handled and maybe cleaned a little bit
Yeah.
more than the other ones.
Yeah.
The other ones just have like, the everyday wear and tear, and so it's got that natural color to it. But, yeah, I can ask them, if they knew maybe which particular bricks were thicker than others, but they did say it was this block and the different areas that they were working on. Block number 2 is really kind of a hodgepodge of all sorts of different stuff.
Maybe one thing we should consider once we go and do the damage, or not the damage, but rather the removing replacement of that tree that's there. We come back in and do some sort of staining. That way you have a uniform color, because it looks. I mean, what I'm seeing is patchwork.
Yeah,
So-
well, yeah. So we did talk about trying to weave some of the brick so that it blends a little more. It's still going to be patchwork, but so he's going to look at that to see what the possibilities are of weaving into this, so we don't have that much of a pronounced patch.
I guess the picture here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think if we stain the whole block, uniformly, it'll kind of hide away some of that. So moving forward in the future.
Sure. Well, what I asked Edward and the contractor, and obviously Mr. Chavez was back there, needs to agree. He's our project manager. So if he agrees, is to come back with these small details in November for the November meeting and see how we can work through them.
Okay.
Whether it be through the existing contingency or, whatever in the future. But
Yeah, correct. So kind of in summary on that, as you brought that topic up, is there's a couple little items that are, things that we just needed to field adjust. And they all fall, in my opinion, they fall well within our contingency allowance that we had set aside for this project. So
if we can weave a little bit, I think we can lose some of that. It's just.
you're saying weaving
Yeah.
these bricks?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can bring that up to the contractor and ask him if there's a way, he can go in and maybe go back in some of these areas and help us fix those and see how he can do that. But yeah, going back to the extra items that we may have, the contractor, I asked him right now to give us a list. And so we'll bring that up to the November meeting. And typical process with the city is if we have something that's kind of within contingency, contractor brings it to us. The city and the engineer usually review it, make sure the cost is within what we would expect. And if it's within the contingency allowance, my understanding is it just gets kind of answered and agreed upon at the engineering department level. It doesn't go to council, right, on a normal project. So the question here would be, as the TERS board is kind of a little bit of a unique situation on how we normally do other projects, whether or not you would like for us to bring those back to the TERS board, or if they're within the contingency allowance and we just address it and move on. That's up to you guys.
Yeah, my thought is we sort of approved it with a contingency, so if it's weaving in and, approve it on the fly and then report to us, some of the adjustments next time, but, I don't want us to be in a micromanaging position
I
as a
agree.
volunteer
And
board.
there's already 2 professionals, Ramon and Edward, overseeing that.
Yeah, and we'll look at that. So we'll bring maybe a summary of the items that we have to date at the
Just report.
next meeting. Yes, sir.
Do you mind just running quickly through
Yeah,
the pictures?
I'll go quickly through them. So again, these are your pictures. So stop me, please, if there's something you want to
I
address.
took more than needed, so just,
Real quick, there is, you can see the tree well that we added this concrete. So we kind of made this a tree well before the bricks were kind of running up against the roots of the tree. So we went ahead and added that tree well, and you can see there's the pull box for lighting and sprinklers. This is in front of when you're coming out of the bridge. So those are the tree wells prepped up and ready to go for the trees. Again, there's a tree well right there around the existing tree that's there. And they're using right now some of that area, as you can see, for storage of some of their materials as they're finishing up things. So here we are going closer to the convent intersection. They got all that taken care of. We've got the brick pavers are already in place right over here.
We poured all that concrete and the grate, right?
Yeah, so, well, the grate was already there, so we poured the concrete up against the grate and kind of clean lined it all. If you recall, there was concrete that had a kind of a radial shape. It was
Right.
kind of a big mix in there, so all that's cleaned up now. You can see these three caps right here. Those are the bases for the bollards, the twisted lock bollards. So they already have, those are already been put into place. Of course, they don't have the bollards, they have them stored away. They'll bring them in when the project gets done. There's a little bit closer look at the twist and lock where the bollards would be. There were originally 2 bollards with a chain. We took that out, and now there's 3 bollards. So much cleaner look. The sidewalk coming around the Casa de Cambio there at the corner of Convent. It was noted to us that as soon as they finish that up, I mean, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic that really runs through this corner. So people are already using this and walking through there, and they can see that it's really working for the people, right? The ADA path and the accessibility is working pretty good. So this is the northeast corner. So this again is front of the Casa de Cambio. You can see the ADA ramp and the ADA truncated domes at the corner of the intersection. We got the couple of pull boxes that they've already placed there on the high side. Those are the brick pavers for the pavement. So they've already laid in that one half of the road. I'm working with them, and we're going to work with engineering to work on shifting traffic already. So as they get closer, we're going to eventually bring traffic to drive on top of these so that we can work the other side of the intersection. So those brick pavers were laid, and you can see them there. They're laid in a hexagonal pattern, and it's a model called Twist and Lock. It's a pretty strong vehicular paver that's being used at the intersection. So it'll be pretty stout. This is already on block 1, and basically we are looking west towards the outlet shops in the background. This is the area of concrete that they poured just yesterday. So this area is, you can see there, you've got some steps that are coming in. So over on your right hand side is the side that we have adjusted to the finished floors, and you can see there's a little drop right in here because you're going to have brick pavers that are going to go in this section. So the brick pavers will come up to the level of the steps, and then you have some steps here, and then you've got the lower level. This is for a tree well. The tree well is not going to be this big. The tree well is only 3 by 3, but what they're going to do is they're going to bring the 3 by 3 and then fill in the difference later with their last concrete pour. So we asked about that because I was like, hey, time out, it's not that big. And they said, no, we're working on that. So the tree well will be a little bit smaller, so there'll be room for people to walk right by the tree. And again, this is just pictures going as we work our way west towards the outlet shops. So again, you can see the little drop in there, and you see this water meter sticking up, and you see all this. That's where they'll start to lay in those pedestrian bricks, and they just poured this recently. There is a little bit of finish work that we met with them about in here. You know, I had some comments about this, and I think Jose saw it too, that some of these joints aren't really lined up very good. So I did bring up that to them, and we're going to work through something to find a good way to get that fixed up. But again, those are just minor details that we work through. This is the second half, I'll call it, the side closer to Salina Street. You can see the steps, and there are the brick pavers that are already laid into this section. So this section they poured a while back. So this is the area where you'll be able to walk on the bottom. This is essentially kind of a retaining wall break. There'll be some handrail here, of course, and then somebody can come and sit. So this is about 18 inches high. So on the lower end, if somebody wants to kind of sit there and rest, the idea that we had there was it was enough room that somebody could do that. Right in this area, I guess we'll say, was some people have kind of questioned, hey, this is not looking right. It really, what we're doing here is you're walking through this section, and there's a little bit of a ramp here that we needed to leave because it's a service entrance for Ueta. They had asked us to do that. So what's going to happen here is the pedestrian route, as we call it, the PAR, the pedestrian route, you'll walk this way, and then you'll kind of chicane a little bit this way, and then you'll walk on this high side. So there's a way kind of around that. This will be a full tree well that you see there, so there'll be a tree in your way. You won't be able to walk that way. So once it's all done, it's going to work out. It looks a little deceiving right now when you look at it. Again, just working our way. We had some steps there. This is the area between two buildings. We had noted that there was a way for water to get out. So what we're doing here is we built this little curb drain under here. So what's missing here is they're getting the plate manufactured, and there'll just be a steel plate that sits right on top of that. So you'll be able to easily walk over it, and that allows the drainage from between the buildings to come out. This was the area, Jose, I think that I had mentioned with you in a previous conversation. We hadn't anticipated a ramp on this side, but when he came and opened up, I think we thought this was a window, and it ends up being a door. And so we had to field adjust this. I had this slope down at about maybe 4% or something like that. With that field adjustment, he brought it to my attention, and I said, no, we need to adjust to it. So we adjusted to it. It brought it down over the 4%, over the 5%, which turns it into an ADA ramp. So we went ahead and made that an ADA ramp, and we'll have to add some additional handrail just right in this section to cover that.
Is that not going to affect them when it rains with water?
No, it's open. This is
No, I mean
going.
the ramp leading to the door, to the curtain.
Oh no, because the ramp, everything keeps sloping down in that direction, and so once it gets down to that direction, so it's over here. So if water's coming down behind here, it's going to keep coming. It's sloping this way, and then everything is pitching away from the foundation, so it'll just run over the steps. So yeah, we're okay with that. Again, just preps for that. This is a corner on Salina Street. And so there you can see there's that ramp on the high side. This is kind of where you can decide whether you want to go up on the high side or the low side. And then there's the ramp across the intersection there. And if you're coming down Salina Street, well, then you'll come this way around the corner, and that goes up to what we're looking at doing as phase 2, right?
Right.
So that's, it looks like it's about it.
Assuming it's going to get power washed once the job's done.
Absolutely, yeah. It's, it's, they're getting this done, and people are almost immediately, I mean, we have the cones and everything set up out there, and certainly these guys are very mindful to the businesses like Ueta and such, and so I always told them, no matter what you do, make sure there's a walkable path, a safe walkable path, so that we're not affecting these businesses too much. So people are walking all over these, and of course they're driving their equipment and back and forth. So yeah, there'll be a final walkthrough, a final clean that we'll do. And like any project that we do, we're going to do a final punch list item. So if there's anything that anybody sees, we'll go ahead and address. So I think that was it, Jose.
All right, any questions or comments for Edward? No? Thank you very much. Ramon, do you have time, or should I bring the item up? Would you like me to bring you the? You can, yes. Okay, all right. So I'm just because I know he's got a few things that he needs to take care of. I'd like to move to bring item 8 up on the agenda. Discussion of possible action to award the fabrication and installation of the Iturbide It Street exterior monument sign pursuant to competitive solicitation number FY 24-ENG-5. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Caballero. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None. Motion passes. And this is the sign that goes in that cutout in that Edward started to speak about at first.
Honorable
Go ahead.
Chairman, members of the third board, Ramon Chavez, City Engineer, thank you for moving this item up. I know this meeting is very important. So on the screen, you should be able to see just the general information that we received for this project. This is the Downtown Terrace number 1 Iturbide Street Monument. We received 2 bids at the City Secretary's office, which were due on September the 12th and publicly open on September the 13th at 11 a.m. From there, the 2 companies that submitted a bid, one was ALC Construction from Laredo, Texas, and the other one was SSC Signs and Lighting Inc. from Louisville, Texas. As you may see there on the table, under original bid bond, this is some of the things that we request as part of the bid. The lowest responsible bidder at this point did not submit an original bid bond, okay, which is one of the requirements. They submitted a copy, okay. However, this morning we did receive the original bonds. We're running those through our legal city attorney's office, and we should not have any issue awarding this bid. The total base bid for both, as you can see on the screen, ALC Construction, the base bid of $143,920 with an alternate bid of $21,000 for a total bid amount of $164,920. SSC Signs and Lighting Inc. submitted a base bid of $87,353.87 with an alternate of $24,709.94 for a total bid amount of $112,063.81. So the second bidder, which is a local bidder, had a difference in amount of a total bid of more than $50,000 or 47%. So at the same time, for those reasons, we did receive a letter of recommendation from the consultant, okay, based on their evaluation of both bids. They recommend accepting SSC Signs and Lighting's proposal as the lowest qualified bidder. And the City Engineering Department agrees with that recommendation.
Okay. Any questions? I have a question for Able City for Juan. Do you want to come up, Juan? Is this the entire package? Like includes lighting, structure and lighting, everything that was designed into this sign?
Juan Garza with Able City for the record. Yes, this is correct. The total amount, including the $24,000 alternate, is including the signage with the light and also the screen.
The screen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions or? No? We're good? All right.
I move to accept the recommendation of the city attorney and the consultant for moving forward with the
Accepting the bid from SSC.
Right. Moved by Mr. Heather to accept the recommendation as presented. Is there a second?
Second motion.
Second by Mr. Caballero. Any discussion or any questions? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? None. Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, well, that's Ramon, I just want, before you leave, so we will, I guess, initiate this within a couple of weeks and then establish a timeframe with the vendor.
Ramon Chavez, for the record, city engineer. Yes, that is correct. From this point, we will route a contract for execution, okay? And once that goes through the proper channels for signature, then we'll request product submittals before we can schedule a pre-construction meeting. As part of their proposal, they did submit a schedule. If I recall correctly, they had a start time of December with a completion date somewhere in mid-April.
All that long? Oh, yeah, fabrication would take a while, right?
Yes, so that's based on the schedule that we received on their proposal. Hopefully we start sooner, maybe mid-November, so maybe it'll allow us for a 2-week advantage.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move back to the order of the agenda. Project plan and financing plan that has not gone to council. And I owe the summary of the amendment to Mr. Morales, and Ms. Frank, who created some initial drafts, so I owe them that. That will go to council. I don't know how many meetings. I know things are very fluid with the city right now, how many meetings they'll have in November, but the plan was to go to the city in November with this amendment and other things that may happen. So the plan obviously is done. It's just condensing into succinct sections that are being amended. So I'll get that to you hopefully in the very near future.
Yes, sir.
Wayfinding signage. Do you have an update on that one? Or I have a partial update from what what we've done, but I don't know if there's anything else that you.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know what's the latest information on that. I know we received some quotes from FSG, I think the company, but I don't recall. I don't know.
Then I probably have the latest. So the latest is that, we had some revisions that came back from city engineering, last week, and that was sent back. We had a meeting here with, the city team, including, community development and engineering. And we sent back, I connected them back to the project manager, for FSG. I don't know that it's moved any further than that, so, that's already an awarded project. It's really been more of getting the paperwork done squarely, right? So, oh, well, you were part of that meeting too, that's right. So I think that's the latest. I don't know if you have.
Nothing else.
Have you guys connected? No,
No.
okay, so, all right, so I don't think that's gonna come back to the board. It'll come back just as presentations probably in terms of progress, but it's not gonna come back as action. Okay. Murals program, we have an item, so I'm gonna wait to discuss that under item 7. So there is an update there in the request for the board to consider today on modifying that. We tackled the procurement progress of the Iturbide sign just previously, and then item F, transport TAZA. I was not able to make the meeting where you all discussed the TAZA and the unique identifier, but you may have the latest, Mr. Mata, on that, whether, you and I spoke about there being a need to continue using the city's unique identifier for.
Right, so we need to continue using the city's unique identifier. And whenever we apply for those grants, just to put a project or state as a project so they can make reference to that.
Okay, so, do we need to change something going back to TxDOT? Do we need to report back? Should I be reporting back that it goes back to the original? Or is there anything that I need to do to?
When you applied for the grant, there was a specific project, right? Does it have a portion there where it says the project number? Or the
Yes, it's
project
the
name?
Salinas, and it was described.
So as long as you make reference to that, we should be okay.
Okay, so I'm looking,
Let-
so just report back to TxDOT that we're going back to the unique identifier. The project hasn't changed, right?
That's correct. I
Right.
think, Mr. Ceballos, if I'm not mistaken, you had communicated with TxDOT that we were gonna switch to the TERS, so if we can just communicate that we're staying with the city of Laredo as the, lead, I think that would be good.
Okay, so yeah, and it'll go through Juan Mendiva and PO, and then he
Yes, sir.
runs it to TxDOT, okay.
Right.
So you all are good internally in the city, you all are, you've got your administrative, everyone's on the same page with the city, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, good.
There will be additional steps that will be required, but we can outline that for the board. We will have to enter into a separate agreement and present it to council, because now we are presenting it as a city-sponsored project.
Right, right. And that relates to our financial capacity for, I think we covered this at a meeting, right? I don't know if everyone was here or covered, so I'll repeat some of it. The fact that it's a reimbursement grant relies on the fact that we have to have some cash. As a TERS, we probably have the cash, but it's cutting us very close. So it's best to have the city backing us fully in terms of that reimbursement. Did I describe that accurately?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the whole purpose behind it. Okay, so then I'll communicate back to the MPO and let them know to report back to TxDOT on that. There's no action on that item. One question that I have, do we know the November meetings, or is that not for the city council? Just to know what we should work for or towards.
So I believe the only ones that were moved were the October, so the October meeting will be the October 28th. The November are still as scheduled. We don't have that with me right now, but there's 2 meetings in November.
Okay, so we can shoot to have probably all the items at the same time, right?
Yes,
Because
correct.
the other item is, and it's not on the agenda, but it's on the discussion, right, with Webb County, is kind of getting that really wrapped up. It may probably be good to do it the first meeting of November so we can take it back to the county in November, or maybe they have a December meeting, but.
For the first meeting of November, we're verifying, but it should be the first week of November. I would have a deadline of possibly next week to post the agenda. So I would need to have some information solidifying what that agreement has been with the county. But if we go to the second meeting in November, it might give us a little bit more time.
So one question that I have, is it possible to get an approval from, you all may not be able to answer it, but I'll throw it out there. Is it possible to get an approval subject to an agreement from city council to accept? Well, we're gonna talk about that more in detail in the next item, but I would want to get the council to bless it and then work out the agreement, later, right?
I mean, there's ways that we could present it as an option, as an item for council, for them to have discussion on it, and then bring back the agreement at a later date, or that could be a possibility.
Okay, very good. The last item is not on the agenda, and I'm not gonna speak about it too long, so we don't violate any rules, but I wanna share with you all, the initial draft that Mr. Morales very graciously prepared for us in terms of bylaws. And I would like to see if we can get, input from the board. I'll send you the Word document, tomorrow, so you have it and you can make changes. Mr. Heather's already sent some suggestions back to me. I appreciate that, Justin. So if you have any changes, it's more than really, it's just the first 7 pages that are the document itself. The rest are supportive information in terms of the ordinance, how it was created originally, and then there's a second ordinance that added 2 members for the mayor, and that's in there too, in case you want to read it. However you feel, whatever input you would like to see, you can suggest it, and we'll work through it. My goal is to try to bring this back in November as well to this board, and I would think it would need to go to council as well, as operational organizational bylaws. So probably a lot to try to do by November, but maybe we use both meetings, right? But this is something, I think we ought to do it while we have it in front of us, because it's never really been done, and I think we need to have some of these organizational documents. That's pretty much it for the presentation items. On the discussion items, we have the next item, which is item 7, discussion of possible action to expand the mural program targeted area. That's item 1 within that. Number 2, allow ongoing awarded artists to declare interest to continue identifying property owners that accept the program. And 3 is to reopen the solicitation. It says open the solicitation through December 31st, 2024, to invite property owners directly and new artists to apply. You all let me know if that all meets procurement requirements, but the total program funding is to remain at $50,000. I know Ms. Castillo, the Economic Development Director, is here. Her and her staff have done a lot of work on this program, and I'll provide a summary and then ask her to kind of assist me with any questions and next steps. But the challenge, this has been a challenging program to kick off. I think we all knew that with the fact that we have property owners that are interested, and then we have artists that are interested, and trying to match them has not only, that's not the part that's really difficult. There's a requirement, which I support, that if the city invests money on a mural, that it should be up for 5 years. I think we've gone through that. And the sites, some of the sites that have been presented, some of them have said no. Well, one of them has said no. And a couple of them, they cannot tell us that they know that the building's for sale and that it may sell within 2 years. So we have those challenges. So in looking at this in more detail, I think we met last week, right? So we talked about how could we just keep this open and then allow property owners, because there's 2 things we did. We defined the area. We said only within this finite area, which is Zaragoza and San Agustin, is we would entertain spaces. This would open it up to an area to be defined by this board, but also allow property owners to tell us that they're interested in artists. So it's like a 2-track system, and just to invite more people to participate. As of right now, we only have 1 possibly viable out of 5 that we started.
Yes.
1 possibly viable mural, right?
Yes, and we have a very short, I guess, update on each one of the murals in
Okay.
case
All right.
that's needed.
Go ahead and add any details that you think the board might be interested
you. Good afternoon, members of the board. Miriam Castillo for the record, Director for the Economic Development Department. As Mr. Ceballos mentioned, we met last week to give an update on this program. As you all know, it was a multifaceted, I guess, program where we had an RFQ for artists. You, the board, selected some of the artwork. The challenging part was on some of the murals. One, like Mr. Ceballos mentioned, some of those murals it's not for sure that they didn't feel comfortable entering into a 5-year agreement. Number two, some of the artworks, the property owner didn't quite agree with them. So we will give you just a very brief update on them. One of the proposed locations was 1016 Zaragoza Street. Iturbide, I'm sorry. Abel Gonzalez, Linaje. For this particular area, a new design was requested. The property owner approved of the use of the property for a mural, but not for the design. We arranged visits and meetings with the artist and the property owner. They are willing to modify the artwork. But the property will be making improvements to that side of the building. So that's also another challenge that we're facing with that particular property. That's
So
going to be.
this one is paired up with an artist and an owner that are willing to work with each other, right?
Yes, as long as the improvement I think they want to add a door and a new entrance. As long as that is, once that's completed and once the design is approved by the property owner, and I would assume once it is presented to the board as well for final approval.
Do we know if that's been approved by the Historic Commission yet? I know there was some discussion at City Council a couple.
It was not approved by the Historic Commission and appealed to council, who approved it.
Did they approve it? But I think there were some conditions on it maybe?
Yeah, there was some, they wanted final approval of the design of the door.
Okay.
So the next step is for the property owner to meet with the council person to go over what door. Which
Could be a
my
while.
understanding is the door is the same that was approved, that was presented at council.
Okay. So it could be a while.
Yeah, one of the other locations, it's also on Iturbide. The property owner is not in favor of the design either. And they did express that the property may sell in a couple of years. It's, it's dependent upon, the selling of the property and the 5-year commitment that is required for this particular program. The property owner did mention that if the trust board approves moving forward with the mural for as long as the property remains under their property, I guess, he's willing to participate, but it's not guaranteed that it'll be for the 5-year period. This other location, 1219 Zaragoza Street, they did approve the design, but again, the property may be demolished within the next 2 years. The proposed location on 1001 Iturbide Street, the property owner is
I think
not
that's
interested in Zaragoza? Yes, Zaragoza, I'm sorry. Is not interested in pursuing a mural at this location at the moment. And that's pretty much, as Mr. Ceballos mentioned, this was the area that was originally identified, and we're open for any questions or suggestions.
When we say we're going to expand the mural program, are we going to allow it anywhere in the TERS, or are we going to try to
That's
narrow
up
it?
to us. That's really,
I believe that at that point it's up to the board. If this is money that is coming from the TIF, and if you all want to just keep it to the entire TERS area, but open it up to where, I think the ideal situation here will be to have a call for property owners that are interested in participating or having their properties be listed as possible locations. Have the artist meet with the property owner before they even come up with a design that we don't know if it's going to be approved by the owner. And once those communications and agreements between property owner and artist are done, then we come to you for approval of the design and the location of the mural, I think.
Let me ask you this, since the challenges, I'm sorry, real fast. The challenges with the property owners, it's always going to be there, right? Have we explored the option to maybe having like a huge canvas mural to where we can anchor it to the wall, and then if they decide to move, we can always remove it and place it elsewhere?
I don't remember us discussing that, but you know, so long as it has life and it's not destroyed, you know.
If there is a way that it can be like a removable type of, I mean, it will make sense, but I don't know how, you know.
The issue with canvas is it can get, you know,
Yeah.
cut, right, and damaged pretty quick. But
I mean, same thing with the mural, you can spray paint it.
You can.
I mean, there's vandalism.
yes, that's
So,
true.
And I believe that the murals as well, the artwork, if we're gonna be reopening, the call for artists, if the board, and I know we, at the beginning, and the commission, the Arts and Culture Commission, they were very good at giving assistance as well. But I do think that, if there's any type of, branding that the board is looking at, or any type of, guidance that we can give to the artists as to what you would like to see as part of the murals, whether it's a welcome sign, whether it's a particular theme, that could also maybe help giving artists some direction as to what the board would like to see through this
Well,
program.
when we first started, that's where we started, is that we were not equipped to recommend artistry, you know, because some of us are not artists by any stretch of the imagination. So that's why the whole commission that committee was very valuable too. I mean,
We did provide some guidelines. I think they came
Yeah.
up with some guidelines because
but
the rest
not
of us were.
artistic. I mean, yeah, they were more restrictive about don't get into this space of art, you know, that would be impolite, or I don't know what the term we used, right? It was,
Like freedom of speech, right?
yeah, so that they were more aspirational than anything. But I mean, it's for the board to,
I like the recommendation of just expanding the area, perhaps. I know that by limiting the area, it proves the point of the area. If you centralize all your murals in one zone, it makes a bigger impact. But if we're not getting the hits that we need,
and
we
how
might
much
have
time.
to extend it. And I like Ms. Castillo's approach of having them do the upfront work with the owner, and then we just approve.
Okay, well, we'll entertain a motion or additional discussion, but how long has it been since we started this process? April?
April, we prepared the RFQ. I think the deadline for the RFP was I know we came to the board in June to give you the final recommendations. June, that's when you all approved the
Yeah, so,
artwork.
I mean, it's not for lack of trying that we're, you know, we just.
It's not, and really getting and we know this, getting a hold of some of the property owners, some of them don't even live in Laredo. We were very fortunate to be able to work with one of our Business Improvement District Board members that really was very helpful in getting us, you know, that, opening those doors and conversations. But yeah, part of the challenge was,
No, and I appreciate them being honest and saying, hey, look, this is for sale, and I can't, it's for, you know, there's interest now, so last thing we want is to have it, you know, undone in a year or two. All right, so do you want to, Mr. Cabello, you want to make it in the form of a motion?
I motion that we give a wider I don't know how-
Project area?
I don't know how to put it.
Would you define the area?
Allowing the area just to expand?
To
So-
what area would you suggest?
I'm not sure if the whole tiers, and just make our selection based on the responses.
Okay. All right, anything else you want to make part of that? Do you want to keep it open as one of the potentials? Do you want to keep it open until we have?
Until further discussion with the owner and clarification on the intent.
We defined a period, Mr. Morales, to keep it open, or just leave it open, or what would you suggest?
What are we requesting to be kept open? I'm sorry.
Right now, the solicitation's been closed, right?
Right.
So we have to open it and keep it open. Do we have to define that period?
Oh, I don't think so.
Just leave it open? Okay. So
could it be an ongoing program to where applications are just being received as they come in without necessarily a.
So we did a request for proposals, and these
Okay,
artists.
so we did a request for proposals following procurement procedures with the date, with the posting, with, you know,
I think you have to stick with the proposals unless you open it up again.
for the artist side.
For the
But for
artist
the
side.
property, the call for property, interested property owners,
Oh, that can be ongoing.
okay, just an application, I guess.
I think there was something on the website.
Yeah, no, it was completely posted, you know, that was one of my questions, do we post? So the first thing is, there's one in the works, is not losing, and even the artists, I don't think we need to lose the artists, right? It's keeping those, allowing us to keep them engaged and still buying for a project.
Yeah, so now you're just opening it, you wanna open it just for
What was
possible
the
sites?
what was the initial outreach to the property owners?
It was on a website, and then it was, the consultant,
Mail? Did we do
reached
mail?
out to a few
The
owners.
consult, the Able City
So we
went
went
and
by,
talked to them and brought back interest. Yeah, they were
Door,
interested.
door by door.
Yes,
so we
That's
pretty
good.
much went by the list that the consultant, on the locations that the consultant recommended to the board. So our department, we did the one-on-one, I guess, meetings and consultation and presentation of the program. But some of them were, you know, like I mentioned, the challenges that we face with some of the properties.
Okay, so going back to, we have a motion, is to expand the area to the entire area, and number two is to keep it open? Is that-
Reopen the solicitation.
To reopen the solicitation and keep it open.
Reopen the solicitation for artists and property owners?
For both. Does that work?
or is it just for the property owners, because we already have interested artists
So
right
some
now?
artists have said, one in particular said she's not interested anymore. Because and it's not because of anything we did, she just is in another, she lives in Austin or somewhere else.
But you still have artists that you, procured and you have, ready. I think now the problem is you don't have the other component. So I would suggest or recommend that the artist is already procured. Just open out the call for property owners, so you can match up the property owners with the artists.
That works.
I think that's,
Because you already did the procurement process for the artist.
that's correct, and if you wanna expand that list, you would have to go out again.
Yes.
And if I may recommend also, and I don't know if this needs to be in the form of a motion, to allow our department to come back with new artwork, because you all approved certain artwork on each one of the artists,
Right.
and I'm not sure if those, that
No,
needs
it
to be
has to
also
be.
part of it.
I don't think there's a single one that's gonna stay the same, probably.
I think all of them may change.
Okay, so that would be the third. You're implementing this, does that work to just open it up to property owners, or do we need to just call another artist group of
So how many artists did we get in?
5?
We have 5,
5 artists in one drop.
yes.
Well, you could possibly open it for that one slot because you had one drop. So you can open it up to select. No matter how many applied, you remain the 4, but you open it up for that one slot. Makes sense.
Is there a motion?
We do have options of other artists.
That's a
that
big
we-
list.
Just the thing to note is, the attorney's saying, if you do go back to solicit artists, you gotta post it, right? That's what I'm hearing.
Yes,
You
sir.
have to do a full
Yes, sir.
procurement.
I think like Ms. Martinez mentioned, if we just open it up for property owners to sign up, we can match the current artists that you all selected, work with them on the new design that according and based on what the property owner would like to see. And we will just need clarification on the 5-year, if that continues, if that'll be part of the contract, so that we can include that when we make the call for
Okay.
property owners.
All right, so let's restate the motion and we'll vote on it.
All right, let's see if I got this right. The motion to reopen the solicitation, just to expand the area and to fill the original 5 slots for the artists.
Property owners.
No, we're talking about that there is 5 artists and one drop. We would open the solicitation for that one artist to be.
But we need to call
The
for
other 4 you
owners
gotta
too.
respect.
But we're calling for our
So then
owners.
you would have to do a whole new solicitation, and that you can.
No, at that point.
I think it's
I think
cleaner
at
to
this
do.
point, if we already have the artists, let's try to find 5 property owners that are willing to, and maybe that's phase 1. If there's money left and we can, reopen a phase 2 of a murals program, maybe we can start the process.
So you would just need to include, calling for more property owners. through
Just to
the entire
expand the
contract.
zone of the mural project, right? I think
That takes care of it?
that takes care of it.
Okay.
Okay.
So motion
So, yeah,
to.
You have it right.
Yeah. You want to leave it like that?
It
Your
works.
initial motion, I think
With,
would suffice.
without
I'll
the
second
artist.
that one then.
Yeah.
I I think the initial motion was to expand the mural project zone to the entire TERS.
And to work with the existing artists, right? That's what we're
Yes.
saying.
I think that'll give us a chance as well to do some, door by door, invitation to property owners to participate if we know that the boundaries are now, that we're not limited to choose those recommendations that were given to our department at the beginning.
Right. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion?
I'll second it.
We have 2 seconds, Mr.
Yeah,
Heather and Mr.
second now.
Mata, yeah, that's good. Any additional discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None, motion passes. Thank you very much. Last item 9, discussion and possible action to approve the County of Webb join and contribute to TERS number 1 pursuant to Tax Code Chapter 311, Tax Increment Financing Act, and authorize the board to proceed in obtaining city council approval and develop an agreement to establish the term for the participation, the board membership, the level of contribution. The participation would be effective beginning the 2025 tax year. Webb County has requested adding 3 representative members to the TERS number 1 board. Again, this requires full city council approval. We've talked about it in different meetings here. This is kind of the first time that we kind of put it in some order. We learned from the county that, at least administratively, that it didn't have to happen within the fiscal year. They still took action within the prior fiscal year, and the tax year would be next year, right? So if everything works well, we would see revenue at the end of next year. What our bylaws, what the statute says is that they get 1 member, and that's been clarified. Mr. Morales has done that research for us. And there's an ordinance-related change that council would approve to add 2 members through an ordinance. So at some point, it could be today, probably would be good to do it today, is to agree to these notions and present our recommendations to city council. If we have an agreement, we do it all together with an agreement. If not, that's what I was asking the question. Can we present the fundamental elements, get approval from city council, subject to a document coming back for ratification? Whatever you all think would be smoother is what we should do. The participation level that we've discussed with the county has been at 100%. We have not really dug deep with their staff, but it's at least with the folks that we met and at the presentations before the county, that's what we've been talking about. If something changes, then that can be discussed. I'm sure the city council is going to ask that. What we agreed with the county is that we would go back to engage them in an administrative conversation and kind of arrive at a document that they could adopt and that we could adopt, right? I think we adopt some sort of, like, this is, I think, a framework. At this point, we can start talking to them and then hopefully arrive at a working document and go from there.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, so because we have an establishing ordinance with an amendment with the number of seats, we are gonna have to go back to amend the establishing ordinance. But you're correct, so by statute, they are entitled to 1 seat at the table, as a participating tax entity. However, we can't expand that, so I don't know if the thought was to add additional seats, that are technically part of the city, and then in good faith, put county appointees on that. I'm not sure what was the thought behind that.
There's been various thoughts. I mean, I can give you mine. I think it could be a blended where the city doesn't lose more than 1 or 2 seats, and then so really, if you have to give them 1, then you got 2. If the city could forsake 1, then you only really add 1 by ordinance, right? But if the city felt no, we want to keep all of the ones that are currently there, and you add 2, right? Plus I'm saying by ordinance.
So expanding the board, but then, so all I'm saying is that we can say these are for the county. The city would expand their seats, and then they could honor that. But by statute, they would only be entitled to 1.
Right. And it's been discussed. I look at Justin because he's been at those meetings. It's been expressed. I think I expressed them at the last meeting as well, that we were finding a way administratively through ordinance to add an additional 2. Okay. My inclination is, and again, I don't know if it's going to take one more time coming back, I have not, beyond the council member Cigarro, I have not really had any other conversation. I haven't talked to the city manager since I went back to the county this last time. So for me, it really depends on whether the city wants to keep all the same seats, right? If they're willing to give up one, so we keep maybe 9 people on the board as opposed to more than that. That's part of the reason for my putting it on the board, on this meeting for discussion. You all have any comments?
No, I'm just thinking that probably the easiest way is to expand the board to 9 and just say, you know, you've got the one by statute, and then you've got 2 others that are going to be in the amendatory ordinance saying that, you know, you get the statute, and then the mayor or city council will accept the appointment, you know, recommended by the judge or by Webb County for the other 2 seats. Or then you take the 7 and then you've got to restructure the entirety of because how it's set up now is, you know, the mayor gets 2 and then there's 2 directors or 3 directors or 2 directors and a city manager, and it's really bifurcated out. And I think that probably makes it a little harder or a little more of an adjustment, not harder, but a little more of an adjustment on the ordinance.
Part of it too is to gauge, you know, we have a responsibility to come up with the framework. That's our job, right? So, and I think once we have some framework, if it's today to develop some framework, then we can cover it with the city manager, cover it with everybody else that wants to hear it. If it goes through a run of discussion at city council, then we do that to get their feedback. Mine is to keep the seats that are on this. Really, it makes sense to have 9 people. Once you start getting to 10, you're not gonna, probably wouldn't recommend 10, right? You recommend 11, so you can break ties and do things that you would want to. So my inclination is probably to have a total of 9, right?
So I think the direction we need to get is from legal to make sure that what we're doing is, you know, is allowable. And then once we've established the legality behind that, then I do recommend we take it to council and get their blessing that we're going to engage in.
But we have to, at some point, decide what the framework is here.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, there are 7 seats by ordinance.
Right.
So I do think that we need to get with city management to see what directive, but it's a blessing that has to come from council too, at some point.
Can I suggest that maybe the board present something?
Yep.
Like you all vote on what is it that you're
That's what I'm trying to
asking
get at
for?
today.
Yes, I think you all need to vote on something to be presented to the city manager and then be presented. And it would be an item for discussion at council first before entering into any ordinance that would follow.
Yeah,
Okay, we're fully appointed, correct?
we are.
Yes.
The mayor has 3 appointees. So actually, if you look at the tab, the first page, thank you for putting that on there. On the binders, it kind of tells you who's doing what in terms of appointment.
Because my original recommendation was going to be just add, you know, expand the committee to 9 people, and then the mayor give up one of the 3 nominations that would be, you know, become the statutory, and then, you know, the other 2 would be sort of unhonored by it. But I don't know, you know, I expire, but I'm a District 8 appointee. I don't know if there's an expiration that makes sense to naturally break or not.
Right, but I mean, I think eventually our will expire, and then we could write it so it's effective at the expiration of a seat.
As recommended.
I already kind of expressed my leaning is to arrive at 9, and well, if you do the math, you know what that means. The city would have to give up 1 spot. Now, I mean, to be fair, right? So 2 were added by ordinance on the package I gave you. You look at the second ordinance. So during Mayor Science's period, 2 were added for the mayor. And frankly, I don't remember the history of how they arrived at that addition.
So are we capped by law on how many board members?
15.
15.
The cap is 15. I don't think we want
So
it more than
currently what's
15.
holding you is the ordinance. The ordinance caps you at 7. So that's the
No, the
first thing.
statute lets us go further. It's just for practicality for me. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
So can we add 2 more? I think the answer is yes. Depending on the ordinance being changed.
Correct,
allows
so
that.
there's a max of 15, but the authorizing, entity only has a total of 10 that they can have.
Okay, so we have 7.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the request would be for the mayor to honor one seat for the county, right?
One of his positions would be an honor from the county, and so would another, because they can only get one by statute, so there'd be
Right.
one for Webb County, and then
2 to be honored.
2 would be honored by the mayor.
Well, yeah, I mean,
They're gonna-
well, it doesn't have to necessarily be the mayor, right? So the mayor
Right.
could say,
It could be the city manager.
Yes, exactly.
And, the city manager agrees that he will designate, whoever
Or-
the judge appoints, and then the mayor, one of his will be the same.
so let me break this down a little bit. So let's say the council member now gets 2 and the mayor gets 4, right? And the county gets 1 by statute. That's the additional. That could work too, right? Where the council member's second is a Webb County respected seat and the mayor's third is a Webb County respected seat, right? That could work. Where it's not necessarily the mayor's spot that we're looking at. It's really just adding the seats that are honored for Webb County. Does that
Right,
make
the only-
sense?
I mean, right now, because we're looking at this, the ordinance, it says mayor 3, right? But that can be reworked as long as the ordinance is changed.
Okay.
And council agrees to it. Yeah, the caveats, yeah.
So, at this point, I would make the motion that, and then, there can still be discussion if I get a second here, that we move ahead with, approving, the county joining and contributing to the TERS, beginning the 2025 tax year, contingent on city council approval. And I guess in an interlocal or in agreement with them. And that we work towards, a 9-member board that provides them those 3 seats within statute and ordinances that apply. And, I guess it would have to come back once we have some approval from management and the mayor or whoever seat we touch, or decide needs to be modified. But at least have some framework to go get to start approaching the leadership, the elected leadership on it.
Second.
Second by Mr. Heather. Any discussion?
I guess my question is, was that a deal breaker for the county? They said if we don't get 3, we don't wanna join.
Not, the deal breaker term didn't come up, but yeah, I get the feeling like if they don't get 3 now at 100% participation, right? So if the participation level changes, then I think that can be brought up for discussion, but all things staying constant in our presentations to them that was very important. If you were to ask me, okay, so could it be like, could this fall apart if we don't find 3? Probably. And this has been, you all probably already know, this has been a while that we've been working at it. And they did vote on it in terms of the action, subject to an agreement, so that part of it is done. It's really,
They voted at the county already?
yes. So what's next is just bringing back an agreement. And of course, we've got to broker this framework with everybody to get everybody to agree.
So they voted for 3.
Yes, and I explained to them, you get 1 by statute, and you get 2 with a city ordinance change, right, if we can get it done. Now, this could come back and say, no, we're gonna go to 7 plus 3, 10, and maybe 11 if you have to break somehow. I think the quorum, you can leave it however you want, but if you have a tie, even numbers can be problematic. So we may end up with 11 if the leadership doesn't agree with us, leadership being city council, right? And we can tackle that one if that happens. But at least, let's get our framework that we think works approved so we can move this forward.
I think a discussion may also be had with the county in terms of if we're to expand the number of seats, where that impact their decision making. Because maybe they anticipated 3 in a board of 7. Just a thought.
No, we did not talk about diminishing. We didn't get into the level of discussion about diminishing city representation. To me, it just, the practicality of having 9 people just makes some sense, so you keep a manageable board.
Right. You-
And that
odd
means the
number.
city really gives up.
But you have to give up that
One seat.
One seat. And probably the way to go, if it's gonna be a deal breaker, is to pick it up to 11.
Well, hopefully it's not a deal breaker.
So. So it's already been
Seconded, any additional discussion?
So just to be clear, the action is actually to approve at this moment, to approve their joining and or is this just what we want to present or what the board wants to present?
This is what we would want to present to city council. It's not final until city council is the only one that can finalize this. So it's for us to present our proposal to city council.
Okay. Okay.
So it's,
Very well.
just to clarify, it's for this board to authorize at its level, the county joining and contributing to the TERS, effective the year that's been described, 2025, and to set, to approve the 3 representative members, for Webb County, and to try to figure out what that is with the city council and mayor and council members.
whether we lose one or
What the framework needs to be.
what the framework needs to be, whether it's lose one or take it up to 11.
Yeah. My motion is to be 9, for it to be 9. That's the
9.
motion, the way I word it.
Okay.
Additional discussion, anything else?
But it's the proposal, it's to
Yes.
approve the proposal that it's gonna go to council.
The framework, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So this
Okay.
will allow it to move forward so council can consider approving it.
Okay.
And it may come back in November if we actually have an idea that there's an agreement and let's solidify stuff. If 9 doesn't work, then we'll be growing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None, motion passes.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn at 4:51. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None, motion passes. Thank you very much, everybody.